Immigration. We talked about that a lot this afternoon. How big of a factor do you think racism is playing in all this public outrage over illegal immigration?
I think it's a big factor. Not only is it racist, it's worse than that. It is scapegoating, because we know we're failing as a nation. We're failing in education, we're failing in healthcare, we're failing in our defense, we're failing in our crumbling infrastructure. And what does a nation do when it fails? Well, it tries to blame somebody else. And so what do? We're blaming these brown people coming in from Mexico for our problems. And they're not causing any problems. What we have is about 4.5, 4.7 unemployment. That is about max. That means our society is literally fully employed. So the 12, 13 million people over here, quote, illegal, undocumented workers, are filling jobs and they're not taking jobs away from anybody else, because we're full to the gunnels in employment. So now, if you were to chase those people away, who would fill those jobs? The people aren't here to fill those jobs. And that's what the problem we have with immigration. For the last 10, 15 years, we've been trying to deal with the immigration problem, and we haven't been able to deal with it because it's not the problem that we've defined. It's a scapegoating problem, and media, the Congress, people that bought into this, just leave it alone. People come in here, take a job. When the job is finished, they can go home, or they can choose to stay here if they want to file for a green card. Okay?
Senator Gabel?
Yes, yes.
Do you want me to operate for you?
Yeah, do you want to? And then you can be in it.
Nah, I'm not a screen hog.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
What's the difference between civil unions and marriage? I can't figure it out myself.
Marriage, first up, there really is no difference, except that if people choose to use the word marriage, they should be able to. You want to keep in mind that marriage has been appropriated by all societies from the beginning of civilization. And all marriage does, it's not owned by a religion, it's not owned by civil society. It is a word, and what people mean when they get married, it means that two human beings are in love and want to make a commitment, and they call that marriage. And I don't care if it's two women, if it's two men, or if it's a man and a woman, they should be able to define that as a marriage. And the fact that they do that, it does not disparage from anybody else's union, whether you call it a union or a marriage. And why people should get uptight over that is just something very, very deficient in those people's attitudes.
Speaking of religion, do you think religion today is totally corrupted?
Sorry.
Do you think religion has totally corrupted our political system as of lately, or?
Well, I think religion damages the political process. Religion should be separate from politics. That doesn't mean that a person shouldn't have a morality and be informed by that morality in politics. But when you have organized religion getting involved in politics, as Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, and others attempt to do, they do a disservice to their congregation, they do a disservice to religion, and they do a disservice to the body politic. These are two separate endeavors, and whenever you combine them, you corrupt the process of both.
Now, I read somewhere that you grew up, you were raised as a Catholic. What do you think of the Catholic Church today? I mean, I myself was raised Catholic. I'm not too religious anymore, but I was very angry during the 2004 election. I remember being very angry hearing about certain priests, different priests, saying that they should deny communion to politicians who support abortion and women's and the right to choose.
First off, when I left the Catholic Church, I did not leave it out of anger. I consider myself, if anything, a deist or an agnostic, whatever you want. I do believe there is a force that none of us understand. I sort of lose interest as religion or beliefs become formalized in religion, then it becomes a power process. And I think as Lord Acton, who was a great Catholic, defined that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that applies not only to politics, it applies to religion. And so I am not angry over the Catholic Church. I have a sister who's a nun. She is not very supportive of the Pope in his present views, or the last Pope in his views. One of my great heroes in all of life is John the 23rd, a Pope in the 60s, who at 78 years old became Pope, and in 4 years changed the Catholic Church more than had been done in 500 years. Now that's leadership, and that's the reason why I admire John the 23rd. And so with respect to now the other problem the Catholic Church has with respect to pedophiles, it's very, very tragic. I would hope that someday that celibacy would no longer be a requirement of the Catholic Church, and that priests could get married so that they can enjoy normal lives, enjoy sex and sensuality, which is a gift of God. And there's nothing wrong with that gift. It's to be enjoyed. And that they are deprived of that, I don't know if that has any gain at all, or any advantage to their being able to counsel people in the difficulties we have in and out of marriage, and in and out of a successful life.
I guess one more before I pass the mic. They say if we don't fight them over there, we'll fight them over here. What's stopping Iraqis from getting in a plane and coming over here and just going nuts on us anyway?
Well, first off, the Iraqis have no interest in coming over here. Insurgents are people like our Minutemen. It's their country. They are insurgents because they want us to leave their country. We are an occupying army over there. And so as far as they're concerned, they want us out of there, and they're surging as insurgents to get us out. I would do the same thing. If I were an Iraqi citizen and I was over there, I would become an insurgent. So they have no desire to come over here. Now, Al-Qaeda is a whole different situation. And I'll promise you one thing, that if we pull out of Iraq, the Sunnis and Shia will take care of Al-Qaeda big time. They won't. They'll take care of them. We won't have to worry about that. So no, what we need to do is to take a whole different approach, get away from militarism, bring about peace between Israel and Palestine, and then we'll begin, and then reorganize the United Nations, bring about global governance, treat people like we would want to be treated, the golden rule, and you'll find a big difference in how we are treated, how we act. That's essentially the approach I would take. Okay?
9/11 truthers. Given the number of people that think that 9/11 was an inside job, what do you think that says about the current state of affairs in our country, that so many people distrust our government?
Well, they have good reason to distrust the government because the government operates in such secrecy. I don't know enough about the elements of 9/11. I would say this. I become president, we will have another commission that will investigate all of that. As I pointed out earlier, that commission will have subpoena powers and will cause everybody to take an oath. And so as we subpoena George Bush, the Vice President Cheney, and many, many others, we will then develop the record, and if these people commit perjury, they'll be prosecuted. And if we develop information that shows culpability or criminality, they'll be prosecuted for that, regardless of what position they occupy in public office.
Okay. I know I asked you about the Council of Foreign Relations. There's a lot of conspiracy nuts that...
Leave that alone, Al. That's
Okay. New Orleans...
and Federal Reserve, leave that alone.
New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina. How would you have handled the situation?
Well,